Oh yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. We're going live. I mean, we're like 4 minutes before the hour. I think we're fine.
See it.
Okay. We're going live.
Let's go.
Oh, okay, there's a leg. So, but yeah, it's live. Sweet.
That's expected. Yeah.
Hey, gang.
We might need just a heads up, but we might need people to turn off their webcams when we go to the live
Yeah.
stream when we're showing the machining.
Yeah. Turn them off and then can they hide themselves?
Switch to the guys we're live on YouTube, but switch to the machining one. I just want to see what appears on YouTube versus Zoom. There's going to be a bit of a lag, but
Yeah, and then I can highlight myself for everybody.
And so I'll have this sharing while that's
Make sure you guys are all in gallery mode, gallery view.
well, the thing I'm trying to check now is what does the YouTube stream look like?
Mhm.
Yeah, it worked fine. When you showed the machine, that was the only thing on the video on YouTube. And then when you
Okay.
showed your screen, that was it.
so
So
I'm
that's
not
working.
when I look at the webinar now, Ben, when I look at the webinar view, I don't see my screen at all, even though I'm screen sharing.
Hmm.
I see your
That's
screen.
Yeah, I see it.
that's interesting. So you see my screen, and do
I
you
see
see
Fusion.
it should look something like this. It should look something like this.
Yeah, I see that. You need to be in gallery mode.
Yeah, I am in gallery mode. And all I can see is everyone's video streams, not my screen share.
Oh, because
Yesterday
you're
when
on
I did,
webinar. You have to click like number one. Make sure you're on my screen, not webinar.
yeah, and then okay, so I can only see a small machining video, so we'd have to kill. Yeah,
That's
this is
just
what I see, which isn't great. There's all these sitting here.
that's fine. That's better than nothing. It's because Paul and Al are on the call now with their videos.
So if you guys kill your videos,
Well, their faces are still there. You have to like
yeah,
hide. They really just shouldn't be on the panel.
I think, Scott, stop sharing your screen for just a sec. Okay, so that shows me Ben's pinned video of the machine. And then if you share your screen again, I think it should take priority in my view. Yeah, it does. It goes to yours there.
yeah, but we were trying to get it so that we've got an even split of either side of the divider between machining and.
All right, I just started the webinar. It's the top of the hour, so we'll let people trickle in. How are you guys doing? I've got a poll that I will launch here. You guys can just answer some of the questions while everybody trickles in here. We're also streaming from oh, nobody can see me. It's just a brother machine. There you go. We're also streaming from YouTube. So we've got that going. Move my spotlight. Cool. So the poll is launched right now. The first question we have what is your toolpath level? And then we'd love to find out what you guys are using for your CAM software. So that's the second question. So we'll get started probably around 2:05. Does that sound good, Scott?
Well, I'll probably get started around 6:05, but yeah, sure.
Where are you, Scott?
I'm in New Zealand. I've got a slide for that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm sure you're gonna rock it. Up until yesterday, I was supposed to do this, and then Scott just stepped up and made me irrelevant. I'm so excited, Scott.
We fired Al. We were
You
like,
fired
big
me.
shoes.
yeah.
It's funny though. It's the theme of this whole webinar, right? Like, how do we make ourselves irrelevant so we can do more? I made myself irrelevant on the webinar. Now I get to do more. Or you made me irrelevant, even better.
How's it going, Pete? The classic, you're on mute.
I meant to do that. I promise. How's it going?
Good. We got a hello from Portland. We got to open this chat. So we've got the chat open. Everybody should be able to talk to anybody. And then if you guys have specific Q&A, toward the end, we'll do a formal Q&A session, but just throw your questions in there and we'll answer them during the webinar.
And then so I got irrelevant on presenting. So I am on the YouTube stream and watching the chat there. I'll bring it back for the people on Zoom.
Nice. Thanks for doing that.
There's a half a dozen people on YouTube.
Excellent.
What do you reckon my toolpath level is these days, Ben?
Oh man, in 2 weeks you went from you
Yeah.
impress us all. I mean, you could give a little bit of background
You don't
there,
have to
but
say that.
you're doing a webinar now, so I'd say
Yeah.
your level is much better.
I'd give it a 9,000, Scott.
9,000.
Yeah.
9,000 out of 10,000.
No,
Jet-
no specific limit.
Jedi.
No, but yeah, it's been a fun few weeks figuring it all out.
Oh, I like that everybody's saying where they're from. That's kind of fun. If you guys didn't know yet, I'm in Ohio. This is our shop headquarters, and next week we actually have a couple of Paul's going to be here along with some new toolpathers, and we're going to be making their parts, and they're programming them and running them with Toolpath. So it'll be fun. We're looking forward to that.
We're going to be developing empathy for all of your day-to-day with the new folks. So we're excited to get in the shop. Not sure how excited Ben is to have us in the shop. Probably coming with some new ideas that might get shot down, but we're excited to give it a go.
Gilbert's asking why you can only see the top of the video. I'm seeing Scott's full screen. There's a few different ways you can set up Zoom to look at the screen though.
Yeah. We'll show
Hey,
some of
Tom.
that later on. All right, so
I
should
don't
we
want
get
to say
started?
hi to all my friends, but I better let you do your thing, Scott.
Cool. All right. Well, yep, I think we're all set. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for attending, everyone. So today, yeah, it's what's new with Toolpath, and Ben's going to machine a real part for us as part of this whole process. So just some kind of housekeeping for everyone on the call. Down the bottom with Zoom, for those who aren't familiar, we've got the chat. So audio settings on the left. If you've got a mic, make sure you got those set right. So then you can raise your hand if you want, and we can unmute you, and you're free to have a conversation. You got your chat on the left. So yeah, just have a network amongst yourselves. Just make general comments, engage with the team. Yeah, if you think we've earned it, you can give us some love. Then we've got the Q&A on the right hand side for formal questions. If you put your questions in there, that helps us keep track of everything and make sure we get all your your questions answered, either live or just by replying in the Q&A panel. And hopefully you don't hit the leave button on the right hand side until we're done. So we've done the poll already. And yeah, so Al touched on this in the last webinar, skills gap and productivity gap. We're in the business of closing the productivity gap, and my point of view there is that in a lot of ways you have to wait an entire generation to close the skills gap, and you're also relying on education fulfilling the need in that respect. Whereas the productivity gap, we can all start closing that immediately, and that's where Toolpath fits. So by the end of this webinar, hopefully we'll have demonstrated we're already making steps in that direction for our customers. So just to cover off some resources for in case anyone needs to drop early, but also we've got a range of users on the call, so those new to Toolpath and some experts as well. So we'll be sharing the recording afterwards within the next 24 hours. We've got our YouTube channel, and it's awesome to see that literally we're gaining thousands of subscribers every week at the moment. So thanks for all the support there. There's a really nice range of content that Ben's putting together and getting that uploaded there. So learning content, kind of casual learning content, and then our Chips and Tips podcast recordings get put there as well, and some marketing content, which is fun to watch as well. Then we've got support.toolpath.com. With learn Toolpath in 30 minutes. That's where you go for more formal learning content. Toolpath's updating very fast. So there's some stuff that's a little bit out of date there from a user interface perspective, but that will all be updated and will have caught up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Irrespective, the concepts are still there, and it's a mixture at the moment. So the concepts are still valid. So you dig into that. That 30 minutes course is super handy. And then we've got our blog. Again, a mixture of content on there. And then there's a written form of this webinar there in the form of a blog post as well. So yeah, make sure you go check that out. We'll also share out a link to download this part and the tool library that we're using in this webinar. We'll include that in the email with the recording, so you guys can follow on if you want and replicate what we've done here today. An amazing resource, whether you're a Toolpath user or not, is Pretool. Pretool.toolpath.com. You can go there and upload your Fusion libraries. There's a bunch of options that you can choose to use to either rename all of your tools to a consistent standard across the board. Even if you only do that, it's really handy. But where it gets really powerful is if you go through and add all of the Toolpath standard preset names, and again, optionally, you can add feeds and our suggested feeds and speeds to those presets. It's an absolute joy when you start using Fusion with all of these presets configured. You just don't have to think about speeds and feeds anywhere near as much. Those kind of decisions just disappear, and it just becomes far less stressful programming in Fusion. Yeah, really powerful stuff. Make sure you check it out. And again, there's some good learning content on our knowledge base to teach you how to use Pretool. So this is pretty cool. Today we've got Ben in our machine shop up in Bedford, Ohio, near Cleveland, and myself down here in Christchurch. So technology at its best. Fortunately, we've got some good fiber connections between the two continents, and here we are. We've also got a number of other toolpathers on the call as well, either on video or in the chat. So yeah, fire away with your comments and questions, and we'll get them answered. All right, so the agenda. Hopefully here the idea is to cover off content for new users and our pro users. I will just start off with the what's new. Then we'll walk through a part in Toolpath. Ben will get into the live machining demo, and I'll talk through the CAM output that's come out of Toolpath in Fusion. And then we've got room for Q&A at the end. All right, so the first highlight is Banana for Scale. This kind of speaks to how awesome our team is. I put a comment in Slack in sort of mid-March joking about including Banana for Scale. And one of the developers came back and said, sure, just give me a model. So I modeled this banana up using T-splines in Fusion, and the idea was for it to just be, a one-hit wonder for April Fools, but it was very popular. Users asked us to put it in the product permanently, so here it is. And yeah, every time I show it, gets a smile, and it's genuinely a very useful tool. So make sure, yeah, we've got a cute little banana icon up on the toolbar for you to turn it on and off. So the real highlights for me is our tool recommendation engine. This is an absolute game changer. The idea that you now don't have to rummage through tooling catalogs anywhere near as much as you needed to in the past is just absolutely incredible. We've now got magic uploads as well. So when you upload a tool library to Toolpath, if the Toolpath cutting presets aren't on any of the tools, it'll add them by default. So when you then use that tool library in your cut config, it'll propagate all of the cutting roles automatically with those presets. It doesn't change any of your existing data, just adds more to it mostly to create the right experience for new users. And then alongside that, there's been a kind of app-wide user interface refresh. Cut configs being the area we focused on the most. And as you can see in the screenshot here, we've got the recommendations tab now to include recommended libraries for the tool recommendation engine. And we'll go over that in a bit more detail shortly. Now, the most frequented area, I would imagine, is the overview tab in all of the part reports. So we've just organized everything on the right-hand side a bit more. We've now got tool recommendations in there as well. Just a bit more kind of data at the top in the overview section. And then all the machinability messaging has been improved, all the grouping there as well. And then you can click on each of those issues and get some deeper insights and learn about why that particular feature is not machinable at the moment. Then we've got some quality of life updates. So tool compaction is now called tooling capacity. This used to be, I believe, pretty sure this used to be in the user preferences. Now it's part of the cut config itself. Now when you're editing a cut config or creating one, once you've saved it, you can set it as default right there in the canvas instead of having to go back to the main cut configs list and choose which cut config you want to set as default. And then in the cutting roles view of the cut config, we never used to show which presets weren't assigned yet. So now we've got a little unassigned tag that shows up. So if you miss one, you know you have, and you can drag it across into the cutting roles area.
This is a really helpful feature. I recognize a few names on the call that I've had to go through the list and find unassigned presets for before. So
nice. All right, so I've just got this slide here now, in case we forget to come back to it. But once I've done the Toolpath demo and we switch to Ben, he's going to turn on the live feed for the machine. You may see two tabs at the top of your Zoom window. Make sure you're on the correct one. And it should happen by default, but the view button in the top right-hand corner, you can set it to side-by-side gallery, which should expose the vertical slider bar that I've highlighted there with the number 4. You can drag that left and right to adjust the sizes, and we'll do our best to make sure that we get the machining video set to the size that is viewable. All right, so today's demo. I'll just switch into Toolpath here. All right, so I've uploaded some parts already, but I'll grab one just so that you can see the normal process. So uploading that part, that's using the default cut config to generate. And I first want to show you what the results looked like in the past without the tool recommendation engine enabled. So here we can see in the overview tab, we've got this part that we're working on today, and it's 77% machinable on a 3-axis machine with a cut config that doesn't have tool recommendation engine enabled. And we can see that we've got this feature down here, this open pocket that's not machinable because there's no available tools to reach it. So in the past, we'd then have to go, we'd have to inspect that, figure out what size tool we need, go find that tool, make sure it's added to our library so that this would then become 100%. But if we go to our tool recommendation engine result, we can see that we're now using a different cut config where it's enabled, and we've been recommended this 1/4 inch Kennametal flat end mill. And that's going to solve both finishing and roughing for Open Pocket 1. We can click on this tool, we click on that entry twice, and we get displayed information about that tool. Now we include the product ID. We've got a link out as well, so you can go out to the Kennametal website or whichever vendor it's from and see information about the tool on their website and their context. Buy it if you like, and if you do want to move forwards with using that tool, then you just click use this tool. Now, as soon as you do that, you need to regenerate. But before I click regenerate, I'm just going to go and have a look at the rest of this part and see what else might need to be done. So we've got two setups here. In the setup tab, for each setup, we've got a summary of all the features that are on this part. In setup 1, we can see that there's some holes. We've got a 1.4 inch hole, which is just the big bore really at the top, and then the 1/4 inch holes are all the ones around this PCD in the middle here, and then down the bottom we've got another 6 holes. Now these ones around the outside are actually threaded, so I can come in here and choose my 1/4 20 thread, and when I do that, it will apply that to all the holes. I can optionally come in and deselect individual holes if I need to, and make them just through holes if that's what's required. And once I've done that, even if I didn't select my tool the recommended tool, then I would again have to regenerate. So now I've done both of those things. I'm going to regenerate again. That's going to add this tool into the game, and then analyze what's required to manufacture those 6 holes. So while I'm waiting for that to generate, I'll just jump into the tool libraries here and show you that now we've got a selection of vendor libraries in here already. So we've got some Kennametal, Harvey, and Haas, and then we've got generic Toolpath libraries. So pretty comprehensive libraries for hole making in here. We're going to add more and more to this over time. Then if we have a look at the cut config, and we go to the no tool recommendation cut config, we can have a look at how we enable tool recommendations in Toolpath. So we've got the new overview tab here, where we're kind of starting to aggregate different assets from around Toolpath, and this will keep growing over time. We've got our general machining preferences in here, which have set up the guardrails for how you want the AI to program your parts. Geometry deviations were in user preferences before. They've now been put into cut config, so you can adjust those on a per cut config basis. That's a huge change. Then we've got our tool libraries, which typically are the tool libraries you have for tools you have available in your shop. Recommendations, this is more for the vendor libraries. This is where you would select the libraries for your tool recommendation engine and then cutting roles. In your tool libraries, you've got the option to set whether this particular library is preferred, standard, or backup. So that's super important, and you'll see why later on. And currently we can see we've got 5 tools in our machine effectively. So these are the 5 standard tools we've always got in our machine. If we go to our recommendations tab now, we can look at adding some of these vendor libraries. So we've got the 4 inch library from Kennametal, and we want to add some drills. So we can add in a stub and jobber drills library, and then also taps. So what will happen now is when Toolpath plays the game with your part, it's going to prioritize using tools from this library, and if it can't find what it needs, then it's going to pull everything from here. In the cutting roles tab, this is where you can see where all of the cutting presets from each individual tool is propagated, like as a group, has propagated automatically using the autofill presets button down here into all the individual cutting roles. So if we get rid of alu face rough, we'll then see here that it's now unassigned, and we can drag that in and add it back if we want. So I'm not going to save that, but you would have to save it to make that all those changes stick, and then regenerate your report, and it will then use the tool recommendation engine. So if we go back now and have a look at TRE, we can see it's now giving us a new recommendation. Now this is super cool. Like, not only is it pulled through a tap, it's pulled through the matching drill to go with that tap. So you don't have to spend time thinking about which drill's needed for that thread. You just designate the thread, Toolpath finds the tool that's needed and adds it in. So yeah, I want to accept both of those, and it's going to solve all of these tool accessibility issues for these holes here. So add both of those and regenerate. Now, instead of sitting
one
here,
thing I wanted to say, Scott, was so I designed that part, right? And those have 1/4-inch holes. I'm just a bad designer. And you threw some 1/4-inch, like quarter 20, which I'm surprised you didn't use metric. It really surprised me. But what it's doing is it's ignoring the actual geometry, and you're saying, hey, I'm overriding this. Toolpath, I want to make these quarter 20 holes. So you need to be smart enough to use the drill size. So that's pretty slick. I think it's nice that you can kind of override that.
That's right. So if we have a look at the tools tab here, we can see that our library had a 1/4-inch drill, but obviously it can't use a 1/4-inch drill on a 1/4-inch hole if we're going to put a 1/4-inch thread through it. So that's why we've now got this number 3 drill added into the list. Excuse me. All right, back to the overview tab here. I just want to point out there's still some machinability notifications here. Not so much issues, but a notification that something has been changed. We've made some assumptions here. So we've got hole cone deviation. So it's modeled at 118 degrees, but our Go drill has got a 140-degree tip angle on it, which is fine. So we can still drill that hole, but we're just letting you know that change has been made. So if we go back to setup 1, we can see that there's a number of those modifications across 2 setups. All right, so if we go to our tool list, we can see that we've now got our 7 tools in here. And strategy, we can review this. So we've got setup 1 and setup 2 down the bottom. So we've got 12 operations in setup 2 and 22 in setup 1. Now the first lot of holes have been grouped together into one group, and then the second set, for whatever reason, has been split out into 6 individual drilling operations, and then we've got 6 individual tapping operations. Yeah, that's something for us to improve, but it's done the job. We've got the chamfering split into 2 separate groups, and we'll explore why that is when we look at this in Fusion later on. So you can expand out all of these and see, all the speeds and feeds that have been used as part of the preset on that particular operation. Then, of course, we've got the estimate tab. But I'm going to go ahead and export out to Fusion. I didn't actually need to do that. And go import program, put in my key. Now we've got this include work holding checkbox. If anyone's interested in trying this, I've been asked, we're happy to tell you how to turn it on, but it is kind of alpha. So we haven't fully defined how we're going to build out all of this work holding yet. So you're more than welcome to give it a try, give us some feedback, but we may break everything for final release. So here I want to use self-centering vice and click OK, and everything will load up. So it's going to go and pull out the work holding from our team hub. You can then replace that vice with your own. We've got tutorials to show how to do that. Actually, do we have one yet? Or are we going to create one, Paul?
We have some stuff, and I'll create one. I asked people in the chat if you want to try out work holding, shoot the support email, and I'll
Yeah.
create a video and get people set up.
Right, so that's that. I'll kick over to Ben now, and he's going to show you what he's running on the machine and get the machine running. But yeah, just as a reminder, we've got you got that slider bar in the middle, and just make sure everything's set up for gallery view, and you should see the machining and Ben's screen at the same time.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. That was excellent, by the way. I'm going to share my screen. So I've got the same part. We've already machined it right here. And Scott's going to go over some of the things that we ran into when we pulled in for the cam automation. But overall, it did an excellent job. So I'm going to show you, this is setup 1. Toolpath pulled this in all automatically, but for setup 2, I actually just copy and pasted the same work holding, flipped it 180, and then just made sure that I was holding it between parallels. So I've got a little bit of work into the second setup, but we just want to be, completely honest with you guys and show you that it's not, just press go on the machine. So what I would do is I'm going to post-process this op1, and pulls up in VS Code. And I'm actually using it's called the Chatter FTP client. So if I open this up, I can see my program number there, and it's being sent out to the brother Speedio. I'm going to override it, and the FTP transfer has happened. So now it's gone straight to the brother. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to kill my share. Just bear with me while I set this up. You guys see a brother. Let's see here, spotlight for everybody. And we'll do, okay, cool. All right, so I've got my stock set up. Can everybody see me? Good, right?
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, awesome. So we're making this out of 1018 steel. And so I have my stock set up for my op1. I'm using a hard stop, so I've already probed it in, so I don't have to worry about that. And we'll rock and roll and press like to start. I have it pulled up here. And while that runs, Scott's also going to talk about some of the things that we changed in Fusion, and hopefully you guys can watch kind of the machining happen, and we'll work on getting the entire part made here during this webinar.
Okay. All right, so I'll start sharing my screen again. Look at that and have a look at what we've got here in Fusion. Just make sure we can, yeah, perfect. Sorry, just getting myself set up here. All right, so yeah, just a reminder, you can grab the little divider in the middle and switch between making the live machining and the screen share larger or smaller. So yeah, we've got a pretty good result here. We've got setup 1, setup 2, and all the toolpaths have mapped up. Just want to point out that they're all numbered. So if you ever want to kind of troubleshoot something or understand what's going on, which toolpath relates to what, then when you go back to the program under strategy, you can see all the numbers here. So 3 of 22, this is the corresponding toolpath. So we're facing off, that all looks good. And we've got our grouped holes, they look fine as well. Individual holes around the side, that looks great. Then we've got our roughing, nothing wrong with that at all. That's all looking pretty good. We could tighten down that helical ramp if we wanted to a bit. Finishing the wall, finishing this little open pocket wall, floors, both on the top and inside the counterbore there. Finishing the wall inside the counterbore. And then we've got two chamfering operations. Now this is a pretty neat feature, and we've grouped them by inside and outside, but primarily they're grouped by the amount of tip offset that can be achieved. So typically, if you were to program all of these edges manually, you'd generally end up picking one tip offset that works across the board. But Toolpath has gone through and analyzed what the maximum tip offset can be for any given feature. And we've got, so point, well, I should change to freedom units here, just a second. There we go. Now everything needs to be regenerated. I'll just kick off that now. It shouldn't really invalidate generation, but anyway. Yeah, so the first chamfering operation, we've got, what's that? 5,000. And yeah, 72,000. Am I talking the right language there, Ben? So we've got a longer tip offset for the second set of chamfering passes because yeah, it works. It can. So that's pretty nice. And automation coming into play. There's all of our tapping all sorted out for us. So yeah, so setup 1 doesn't need any changes at all. If we go and have a look at setup 2, we've got facing to knock off the top. We're just waiting for the IPS to generate here. Should come through pretty quickly now. Come on. There we go. It's coming now. I'll catch up in a second. So yeah, we're facing first, then roughing. Looks like we've got some air cuts happening here with the roughing, so we'll take care of that. Finishing the floor, so all the finishing stuff's all good. Then we've got drilling. Now, when we look at this, we're kind of drilling down the center of the part. Having a hole there before the roughing would help, so probably a good idea to move that drilling up to before the roughing. I'm pretty sure that's what Ben's done, but we need to start the drilling further up on the part. So when that was programmed, it assumed it was the stock had been cleared, so we just need to change our top to model top. Just get rid of that offset there. So we've already decked the top. Roughing. Actually, we'll change that to stock top. So stock top. So facing, is there a finish? There's no finish facing in here. So we'll move the facing down to after the roughing. So we're drilling, generate the roughing. Then we're facing, we end up finishing that. So we've got some excessive passes there. So we'll want to edit that. I'm just going to catch up, and we'll just turn off multiple depths because we only need a single finish pass. And we'll change our preset from face rough to face finish. And we're finishing the floor, the walls. We've got our adaptive roughing that needs regenerating. It will just come in and just clear out the last bit of material in here. Finishing the wall, finishing the floor. Then again, we've got 2 different sets of chamfering for inner and outer and different tip offsets again. So here we've got, yeah, 72,000. And same, okay. So they're both the same in that case. So yeah, that's it. So we can obviously simulate both of those. Turn on our stock. Make sure everything runs fine. Oh, just remembered I didn't take care of the air cuts on the roughing operation for the second setup, so I'll do that now. So we can see we've got this, there's no, all this stock's being cleared here underneath what ends up being the top hat on the second setup. So we'll go back to that. And all we need to do to tidy this up is turn on in the geometry tab, turn on reduce air cutting. There you go. So those passes down the bottom are gone now. And that's it. So where are we at with the part, Ben?
I think we just have one more operation to do with which are the chamfers. So then we'll flip it over and do op 2.
Oh, all right. Well, you just interrupt when you need to flip it over. But
Okay.
in the meantime, I'll just talk about some tips. So, yeah, I pointed out when we were looking through the cut configuration that you can change the priority of tool libraries. And so here we can see an example that showing the difference between having your main tool library set as standard versus preferred. So preferred being the green triangle. So on the left, we can see that we've only got 5 tools out of the possible 789 selected. And then on the right, we've got 7. Now, what it's done here is because the Kennemetal 4-flute flat is valid for, will actually rough the entire part. It's got a long enough flute, the diameter fits into everything, and it can finish floors and walls. It's being used across the board, so it's minimized the number of tools. Whereas on the right, we've used the Dodeca face mill to face the top of the part and 3/8 inch for roughing, and then coming around and doing the rest machining and finishing with the 4-flute flat, the 1/4 inch. So realistically, the result on the right is better. It's more efficient, but it might be that you want the result on the left in certain cases. So that's the kind of things you can do to influence the result. Another way you can influence the result is if you've got, in this case here with the 4-flute flat, the Kennemetal, if you were to go in and edit the tool and remove the face finish preset, then that would exclude it from the game when it's looking for a face finish tool. Because that particular tool wouldn't have that preset, it would then never get used for face finishing. So you can go through and refine and control how your tools are selected as part of the game and across all cut configs by removing the preset from the tool.
All right, Scott, I'm going to interrupt.
Yep.
You guys can still see my feed in the machine. Here's the part. This is op 1, just how we saw it in Toolpath.
That looks great.
And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it upside down, put it on parallels. So I got to go get those out and then hold it between these flat jaws, which is, why I kind of designed this nice flat here. And then bump it up against the hard stop and we'll run op 2.
Excellent. All right, and then the last tip we've got here is search for Y. So this is kind of a hidden away, but super handy. So I'll just jump back into the product to show you how to use that. So we were on profile 1. Yeah, okay. So if we have a look at setups here, got actually, you know what? Let's go to tools. We can see that profile 1 roughing tool. Profile. So when we click on in the white space on the individual features, it will highlight the feature in the graphics area. But if you click on the text, it will then take you into the kind of metadata and all the information about that individual feature. When you get into there, and this is a familiar interface that you'll see appear in a number of different places. So same deal here. We can say have a look at the profiles, click on the profile, we end up in the same spot. So individually for roughing and finishing, you can click on this little search bar here, and we can say, well, I want to have a look at the 1/4 inch. And we can see that it's compatible with this geometry, but not selected. Now, if we were to look at that in reverse and go back to, let's have a look at the
Why do you think it's not selected, Scott?
So yeah, that's what I was. So with the no preferred here in reverse, I can show you that when we go to the profiles, profile 1, it's selected the 1/4 inch 4 flute flat, but let's have a look at the 3/8. We can see that it's compatible with this geometry, but not selected. And the reason why it's not been selected is because it's a standard tool rather than the preferred tool when we compare it to the 1/4 inch. So that's one example of what it might be. But what are you going to add there, Paul?
That was a good example. I didn't realize you were going to go into the prioritization there. For tools with the same prioritization, it'll select based on material removal rate.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that. All right. So, yeah, at the beginning we talked about productivity gains. So, what kind of productivity gains have we showed you today? So, we've started to reduce the dependency on tooling catalogs with the tool recommendation engine. One thing I didn't mention is if you do have a vendor library of your own, you can upload that yourself and set that as a recommended library. So there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So if we go into here, we could find, say, maybe this this Ferrous Common is a library that you want to have available to pull for the tool recommendation engine to pull tools from. So all you need to do is select it. It pops up to the top of the list. That means then if you were to go and try and add that in your tool libraries tab, you wouldn't be able to because it's being used in the recommendation section. Prioritizing the use of tools in your machine. So if you define a library just for the primary tools that you always have in your machine, and then a separate library for the tools you've got available to put in your machine, add both of those into your tool library. Set one as primary. So we'll go use this one as an example. So we'd set this one as the tools in our machine as preferred, and then non-ferrous common as our standard one. Then you can the game will be played between those two libraries. So these are all tools available in your shop. Just these are in your machine. These ones aren't in your machine. Automating drill selection for tapped holes. So sure that there are templates that you can set up in CAM, but that requires you to actually go through and set all that sort of stuff up, build that knowledge out yourself. That's all taken care of in Toolpath. All you do is specify the thread that you want to have cut, and it will pick the appropriate drill to match up with that tapped hole. If there isn't a drill available, I'm pretty sure that we'll correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm pretty sure that we go through and bore mill that hole out so that you've still got the correct size there to then run the tap through. And then yeah, automating cam tool pass. As you saw, I didn't have to spend any time selecting geometry there. Other than actually I had to spend a lot less time selecting geometry there. There were some refinements that I could do still. All of my speeds and feeds were taken care of. I didn't have to worry about those. Obviously, in reality, there's going to be some cases where you want to finesse those. Ben certainly did to run this program here as well. He realized that in some areas he could speed the program up, which was great for this webinar. And then automating optimal height variations for 2D chamfers. So varying where it's cutting on the tool and also making the most of surface speed on the tool where possible. And then we've started to automate work holding inclusion as well. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys learned a few things today. And I'll just open things up for Q&A. What we got? They've all been answered. No answers. Has anyone got any questions?
Scott, it might be worth mentioning too, earlier this week when I was running this part, I actually I was just curious to see how our pre-tool feeds and speeds would do for this part. And it did an excellent job. Like I just started running this part entirely with the steel pre-tool feeds and speeds, and it did excellent. I just realized that I could push the tools maybe a little bit harder and get this part done for the webinar. We're just about finished up. So if you guys haven't played with Pre-Tool, and you need a good starting point, highly recommend trying it out.
We've also got, well, yeah, we've also got some tools that we can use internally. So if you generally want to increase or decrease across the board all of the speeds and feeds that we're outputting in Pre-Tool, then yeah, log a support ticket and we can help you out with that. So that just support@toolpath.com is the best way to log a support ticket. So yeah, what's been discussed in the chat, guys? Is there anything that we should cover broadly with everyone on the call? We're also up to 47 minutes, so we can end it here if we want.
There was one point of discussion in the chat that Paul clarified on, but for those watching the recording or anything, for the tool recommendations, we bake in those libraries, so like your general generic drills and taps, and then those vendors you mentioned, but you can actually upload your own vendor libraries if you have something that you, I don't know, put in, you got from a catalog or download off Fusion, you can upload those in. So we don't block it to like make it only the ones we have. We're going to add more, but we make it completely agnostic. So you can add whatever you want there.
Nice. Ken asked about a general tolerance threshold. I think the answer there is no at the moment, but you may have some different information there, Pete. So I'm honestly still very agreeing with Toolpath. Is there a global tolerance threshold that can be set anywhere so it can find a drill within that range if the model isn't great?
Paul can probably speak to that one pretty well.
Yeah, so right now I don't think that deviation limits apply to hole diameter. It'll look for exact drill size. So when I work with folks, the recommendation is always model minor hole diameter or pre-drill, I guess.
Okay.
All right, I got a butt in here.
Yeah.
It's done. Came out really good. Very happy with that. Tim's on the call. He'd be happy that all of the edges are deburred and chamfered. But yeah, there we go. So we made a 1018 part on the webinar using Toolpath Cam Automation, and Scott kind of showed you some of the things that we had to change, but a lot of that was preference. So pretty exciting where we're headed with all this. Definitely go try it out. Shameless plug.
Yeah, that's awesome, Ben.
Peter had a question in the chat about kind of adoption. I'm getting back to it. What did it say?
What would an adoptions timeline to get to upload and go? What adoption tasks or milestones would you recommend to this type of adoption?
Yeah, so basics are, create the Toolpath account, install the Toolpath for Fusion add-in so you can get Cam into Fusion. That's same as any other Fusion add-in. And then really, setting up your tool library. And what I recommend for folks there is start with the pre-tool speeds and feeds. That makes it quick, really easy to do. You can start visualizing the results very quickly. And then, if you find those give a good result on your machine, that's awesome. You're up and running. If not, you can talk to me, or you can always edit those presets in the Fusion tool library manually and do an update. So that's kind of the iterative process, but it's really install the add-in, set up presets in your tool library, pre-tool accelerates that. And then, of course, in the future, we'll get into work holding assets and things like that as well. Am I missing anything there? Scott, you've been playing new user for a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But yeah, if Peter, if we haven't answered that properly, then we're happy to unmute you if you raise your hand.
is pre-tool two-way with Fusion's library. Yes. So it's not directly linked, but you can import and export both ways.
Okay, no finish tracing because this library is. And there is a question in the Q&A now. So from Nathan, I understand Chatter is now included. Can you give a quick overview of what it is and how to use it? No, I can't. Sorry.
I can take that if you
Yeah,
can you hear me
sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'll turn my camera so I'm not hiding, but full disclosure, I'm at the lake now. Maybe the camera's not gonna work anyway.
Why can't I be at the lake?
There we go. My son's middle school graduation class wanted to have a barbecue at the lake, so I had to slip over here. On the Chatter side, we've been a little slow to get everything in. That's largely because Pete, who is the CEO at Chatter, has become exceedingly useful on driving product on the Toolpath automation side of things. So we're running a little slower than we wanted to on getting all the Chatter stuff looped in. It's building progress. But right now, not everybody has access to it. If you've got a specific need and a set of machines that match, Paul will kind of verify that and connect it. But what it does today is tell you what your machines are doing, call it machine connectivity. Our goal is to close the loop. So whether it's a user saying I've got these 7 tools or the machine saying I've got these 7 tools, you can imagine where it's headed. Where it's at today, we have some work to do still. But Pete, feel free to add more.
Great. Just to go back about the adoption timeline thing, the experience that I've had in the last 3 weeks, I've kind of been on the periphery. I've had, obviously had some inside knowledge of Toolpath just from through osmosis of being around all these awesome people. But the thing for me was really trying to understand the concept of like the Toolpath framework. So how tools, the tool geometry, the cutting presets influence, and the configuration of the cut config with all of that influence the result. So once like that picture started to form in my head, then it became a lot easier to use the tool and get it to give me excellent results. So yeah, that's where we're at with it.
Cool. There were a couple questions, excuse me, on probing, which is frankly something that we don't have in the product today. And being completely frank, we don't have it established anywhere in particular on our roadmap. So no promises here. But we'd love to see how you're using probing, and that'll really help inform how we move this doing forward. I know, things like work holding, which we just demoed the alpha from, those are sort of building up because we sort of want this progression in the product planning of like, how do we tie things more and more together? So we need to start with obviously programming the part, what we're doing today, and then now we're starting to add in the work holding and these things around the part in the machine. And then I think probing is not going to be too far off. Again, no hard plans for it, but thematically, it's sort of the next step after work holding of where we go for that full, reliable, like straight onto the machine automation. So, we're very accessible and always listening for feedback and helping us plan. So reach out to me or Paul or really anybody on the team and share what you're doing because that'll help inform how we want to do that.
We've also got a product feedback form that you can use to submit ideas. They just go into the pool and then we'll prioritize them as and when we can. So yeah, again, no timeline promises on any of that stuff, but it'd be great. We always want to hear how customers want to use the product. So we'll make sure to include a link to that feedback form in the email when we send out the recording.
Hi, Tim.
Tim, how you doing, buddy?
Hey everybody. I'm getting by. Messed up my neck and just getting back into work this week. So I'm laid out on the recliner, but super proud of everything that everybody's doing while I've been recovering. So thanks for being awesome.
Peter's called you Tim Knievel.
Tim Knievel, perfect.
Yeah.
Took a little small dive on my dirt bike into the dirt. So my dog my dog's saying hi right now too. Anyways, good work, everybody. Thanks everybody for joining.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks. It's great turnout and appreciate everyone's time. Thank you. Have a good day.
Great job,
All right.
Scott. You did great.
Cheers, Al.